The Korean War. 1950. The Korean War, the first test of restraint. 5 years after Hiroshima, the world was burning again. Chinese troops flooded across the border, overwhelming American forces. General Douglas MacArthur didn't want to retreat. He wanted to annihilate. He formally requested authority to use atomic bombs. Not one, 34 of them. His plan was madness, to drop them along the border and create a belt of radioactive cobalt, a permanent dead zone where nothing could live for 60 years. President Truman was horrified. He realized MacArthur wasn't fighting a battle. He was trying to start World War III, so Truman did the unthinkable. He fired the most popular general in America. It established a crucial rule: nuclear weapons belong to the president, not the generals. Truman stopped the madness, but 11 years later, the military almost nuked itself by accident in North Carolina. The Goldsboro Incident in 1961, North Carolina. A B-52 bomber breaks apart in midair. It drops a payload that wasn't meant to fall. 2 Mark 39 hydrogen bombs. Each one is 250 times more powerful than Hiroshima. One slams into a muddy field at 700 miles per hour. The other deploys its parachute and begins its arming sequence. It completed 3 out of 4 steps to detonate. Batteries activated. Barometric triggers fired. Only a single low-voltage switch stopped the blast. One cheap piece of plastic saved the East Coast. The other bomb is still buried there. Too dangerous to dig up. We survived by pure dumb luck. But the next year, luck wasn't enough. We needed a hero. Trapped in a submarine, while the ocean exploded around him. Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, October 27. Black Saturday. Deep in the Caribbean, Soviet submarine B-59 is dying. The air conditioning is broken. The temperature inside is 120 degrees. Above them, the US Navy drops depth charges. They are signaling the sub to surface, but the Russians think the war has already started. The captain screams, "We will die, but we will sink them all!" He orders the launch of a nuclear torpedo. Protocol required 3 officers to agree. The captain said yes. The political officer said yes. Only one man stood between us and extinction. Vasili Arkhipov! He remained calm. He refused the order. He convinced the captain to surface instead. No internet, no hotline, just one man's intuition. He saved the human race that day. But panic is contagious. Sometimes you don't need a war. You just need a shadow and a nervous guard. The Bear Incident in October 1962. The world is on edge. At Volk Field, Wisconsin, a guard spots a shadow. He fears Soviet saboteurs. He hits the sabotage alarm, but the wiring is faulty. The base hears the scramble siren instead, the signal for immediate nuclear war. Pilots rush to their F-106 interceptors. They are armed with nuclear Genie rockets. There are no confirmation codes. Their orders are to launch immediately. Engines roar. They taxi to the runway, fully expecting to die. Seconds before takeoff, a truck races onto the tarmac. The commander signals them to cut engines. It was a mistake. The intruder wasn't a Soviet soldier. It was a black bear climbing the fence. We almost nuked Russia because of wildlife. But bears are predictable. Computers are not. Sometimes they hallucinate wars that aren't happening. The NORAD training tape error in November 9th, 1979. The phone rings for National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski. NORAD reports a massive Soviet attack, 250 missiles inbound. Minutes later, the number jumps to 2,200. Brzezinski prepares to wake President Carter. He chooses not to wake his wife. He prefers she die instantly in her sleep. U.S. bombers scramble. Minuteman missile silos open. The retaliatory strike is minutes away. Then, a second call. False alarm. The radar was clear. A technician had accidentally loaded a training tape into the live computer. The system was fighting a simulation. We nearly ended civilization for a video game. But machines break. 4 years later, the Soviet computers broke too. They saw 5 missiles, and one man had to decide if it was a glitch or a genocide. In September 26, 1983, Stanislav Petrov sits in the Serpukhov 15 bunker. Suddenly, the siren screams. The Oko satellite system reports a missile launch. 1 missile, then 2, then 5. The screen flashes, "Attack!" Protocol demands he report this immediately to the Kremlin. If he does, the counterstrike begins. But Petrov hesitates. 5 missiles? You don't start a war with 5 missiles. He gambles everything. He marks it as a system malfunction. He waits, sweating for the nukes to hit. They never arrive. The satellite had mistaken sunlight reflecting off clouds for engines. He saved the world. His reward? He was reprimanded for bad paperwork, but the Soviets were terrified. A month later, NATO started a war game, and Moscow stopped playing. It was November 1983, the most dangerous game ever played. NATO launches Able Archer 83, a simulation of a nuclear conflict. To the West, it was just practice. To the paranoid Soviet leaders, it was a disguise. They believed the US was preparing a real first strike. KGB agents frantically reported moving troops. Soviet jets were loaded with actual nuclear bombs. 70 SS-20 missiles were placed on high alert. We were inches from the abyss. President Reagan had no idea. The drill ended peacefully, and the Soviets exhaled. Later, intelligence reports shocked the White House. Reagan realized how frightened the Russians actually were. They really thought we were going to hit them? It drove him to seek peace. But the Cold War ended. The Soviet Union collapsed. Chaos followed, and a scientific rocket looked exactly like a Trident missile. The Norwegian rocket incident in January 25th, 1995. The Cold War is officially over. But the radar didn't get the memo. Scientists launch a research rocket from Norway to study the northern lights. Russian radar mistakes it for a US Trident missile. They think it's an EMP attack to blind their defenses. President Boris Yeltsin is handed the Cheget, the nuclear briefcase. For the first time ever, the launch codes are activated. Boris stares at the screen. Generals urge him to strike back immediately. He has a 10-minute window. 5 agonizing minutes tick by. Norway had actually sent a fax warning them weeks ago, but it got lost on a messy desk in Moscow. Boris hesitated just long enough. The rocket splashed harmlessly into the ocean. Bad filing almost caused the apocalypse, but sometimes it's not an accident. Sometimes, 2 nuclear neighbors just want to fight. High in the Himalayas. The Kargil War in 1999. The nightmare scenario comes true. 2 nuclear-armed neighbors go to war. Pakistani troops infiltrate the Indian Himalayas. Fighting explodes at 16,000 feet. India strikes back hard. Pakistan begins to lose ground. Desperation sets in. CIA satellites detect terrifying movement. Pakistan is preparing its nuclear missiles for launch. On July 4th, President Clinton summons Pakistani PM Nawaz Sharif. He confronts him with the evidence. Do you know your generals are preparing to fire? Sharif is stunned. He had no idea. His own military kept him in the dark. One tense meeting prevented South Asia from turning to glass. It proved that new nuclear powers are volatile, but old superpowers get complacent. Sometimes they lose their own weapons in their own backyard. 6 live nukes take a flight. August 2007, Minot Air Force Base. The scariest incident wasn't malice. It was pure incompetence. Ground crews load a B-52 with cruise missiles. They think they are loading dummy training rounds. They are wrong. 6 live nuclear warheads are attached to the wings. The plane takes off. It flies across the American heartland, unguarded. For 36 hours, the U.S. Air Force lost 6 city killers. They sat on a tarmac in Louisiana, completely unprotected. A pizza delivery guy had better tracking than the Pentagon. See the next video. Spartans. Let's start with the Spartans, the only people in history who refused to build walls around their city. They didn't need to, because their chests were the fortifications. If you've made it this far, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for our channel. Tell me, which of these close calls did you find the most shocking? Is there any specific historical event or crisis you'd like to see in future videos? Leave it in the comments. Oh, send us a super thanks to support our work and bring us more content. And consider subscribing to become a member of our channel to access many benefits.